Hello everybody, welcome back to Level Pix Level, and welcome to part 6. And in this video, we'll just add the spine controls and the god controls. So we're actually going to add the controls as a separate object in Blender, and I am going to add a spine FK coming up here, and then we're going to add an arm FK coming down here, and we're going to have an FK and an IK on the arm. Forward kinematics and inverse kinematics. The forward kinematics is going to actually be able to switch to the inverse kinematics on the arm. On the legs though, we're only going to build an inverse kinematics. I don't really need a forward kinematics on the legs. I know most of the animation this character is going to do, so I'm just going to keep it to inverse kinematics for now. I can add that later at any time though. It's a dynamic control structure that we can just pop in if we want it, but for now I'm just going to try to stick with the IK. I might keep this simple as well and just combine the FK and the IK on the arm into one structure. I'll see when I get to it. Let's jump into the spine and the god node though. So I'm actually going to be making a separate object for my control rig. The deform rig here and the objects, this is what's going to go to the game engine. If I add an IK constraint and control shapes and rotation constraints onto this deform rig, game engines are not going to recognize it. You can rebuild that in a game engine, but I want to animate in Blender and bake my animation to the game engine. We'll get to that in a later video as well, but just know that for now I'm going to be making a separate object for my control structure. So I have this armature here, and I'm just going to rename it to Night Control Rig. And if I flip to edit mode, I'm just going to rename this to Root. I'm going to go back to the pose mode of this joint here. I'll just flip my rotation to XYZ Euler. And I'm just going to put this in world space. I've done videos about why I do that as well too. And then I'll just duplicate this bone down here, and I'll parent it back to it. So this is my root bone that's going to move the entire character. This is usually on rigs at the base of the character, and it just moves everything around it, and there's just a sub node to take care of that. I'll just rename this to root sub. Okay, I'm going to isolate this again, and I'm just going to add a circle object. So I'm going to go mesh circle, just move this off to the side, and I'm just going to assign this shape. So with this joint here, I'm going to go to the bone. I just go to viewport display. And I'm going to do a custom object, and it's the circle. Cool. What I can do though is actually edit the circle live to change that shape. So I just want it to look a little bit cooler since it is the root node. What I'll probably do is just grab these vertexes and scale them on 0 on the Y. And I'll do the same for these ones here. One last thing I'll do is maybe just point this forward, just so I know what the forward direction of that character is. Cool, that's looking cool. A nice little joint right there for him to stand on. I'll do the other one here with probably just an oval shape. So I'll isolate the rig again and this object. I'm going to add another circle, move it off to the side. And I'll go to pose mode under custom shape. I'll just give this circle.001. So this one, I'll just scale down on the Y, like that. Yeah, that's looking cool. And now that I see the knight with it, I'm probably just going to scale this up a little bit, just so it encompasses his feet. This is great in Blender that you can do this live. It's a little bit actually easier in Maya because you are moving the NURB shapes. I like having it as a mesh object because you can kind of use whatever you want for it. But there's benefits to the Maya system as well too. Okay, that's working well. So now if I move this, I get that shape, and the shape is the parent. Let's give these a bone group as well really quickly. So if I go to bone groups, I can add a new one. I'll just call this root. I'll select them both, and I'll do a sign. I'll just make them red. Yep, that's a nice color for that. I don't have to parent anything up right now. We're going to come back and do that later. What we're going to do right now, though, is grab these spine controls from our deform rig, duplicate them, and then connect them to the control rig. So I want everything to be in the same spot, and we're going to kind of repeat this process a lot as we go through this. So I'll select all these spine controls coming up the rig here. And we'll keep it simple with just the spine for now, and I'm going to do Shift D to duplicate. Now I can hit P to separate these. Now that I've separated them, nothing's changed in my viewport, but if you look at my outliner, I have Night Deform Rig .001 here, and I have a new object replicating those bone locations of the spine. So in object mode, I'm going to shift click on my control rig and do Control J. That now joins them into one rig. So now I have a really nice spine structure here. I'm going to select all of these joints here and I'm just going to flip them to Euler. I can do this with Control R and then XYZ Euler. I'm going to select on the pelvis and the spine and just shift click on this node down here, go to edit mode and do Control P, keep offset. Now when I move this, I have my nice parented joint and I have these ones here in FK. You'll remember that in my other rig, the spine control was moving the pelvis control. Okay, so I have this separated off as an object now. Let's just add some control shapes real quick. So I'm going to add a circle object again, another new object. And I'm going to click on this joint here, and I'm going to go to custom object, and that's going to be circle.002. So that's on a 90-degree angle, and that's not quite how I want it, but I can actually go to the circle object and rotate it on the X by 90 degrees, and it updates over here. So I'll do the same for this one here, and I'll do the same for this one here too. I'll just go up these joints and add the circle. If I had to do like 100 joints, I would just script this. I'm just trying to get it done right now pretty quick. But yeah, if I had a lot of joints, I would script this. Now that's looking odd right there. Let's bring back the character. And I just want to fix some of these scales here. So I'm adjusting the scale value here. I'm just going to X-ray mode to select these. And I'll just scale that up. Yep, that's fine like that. I just don't want it to be hidden in the mesh. Yep, that's looking good like that. I'll do this one here. I'm hitting Alt-X or Alt-Z as well, just to quickly flip to X-ray mode so I can select these and then adjust them. Yep, that's looking good, and I'll just do this last one. Okay, so now these control joints here, the last thing I'll do again is just select them. I'll go to my bone group, so I usually add a new bone group, and I'll call this spine. I'll click assign to add these bones to it. I'll just make these blue. Yep, that's looking good. And if I go back to my viewport here, here are my control bones. Now they're not moving anything right now, and that's where constraints come in. So we're going to add those right now. Because I duplicated my deform rig, I know that these are in the exact same location as that rig. First thing I want to do with these joints is just rename them so I can find them. They're going to have this .001 in there because they've been duplicated. I'm just going to name it main pelvis. So pretty much the same as the other name. And this will be main spine. I'll call this main spine .02. So I'll probably just fast forward as I name all these, and I'll swing right back when I'm done that. Okay, so I've named all those joints there. Just main for now is what I'm naming these controls. I could name something else, but it's just so I can find them easily when I'm adding my constraints. So I'm going to click on the deform bone. I'm going to flip to pose mode. I'll start with the pelvis down here, and I'm going to add a bone constraint, a copy transforms. A copy transforms is like 100% connection of location, rotation, and scale from this joint to another joint. So I'm going to click on that. My target is going to be Knight control rig. And you'll see that something really funny happened here. It's because it's going to the object. Now I'm going to make the bone the main pelvis, .01. And it goes back to its exact original location. But now if I rotate that pelvis control, I move just the pelvis. Let's do the spine. So I'm going to do the same thing, copy transforms, Knight control rig. It's going to freak out a little bit, and I'll do spine.01. So I'm just going to continue up and add these copy transforms. So I'm constraining my deform rig to my control rig. And the reason I'm doing this is because I can bake out any animation I add to this later and keep all of the keys, but completely remove my control rig. The control rig is a nice thing that I can give as a product to an animator or a layout artist that they can actually use to give me animation cycles for a game, or even in a show they could use. And then I can actually bake out all of the transforms later on, and then bring that right into a game engine, which is the only thing you can really bring into the game engine is the deform bones. I'm just about done here, so I'll do copy transforms to the head as well. So now I can actually hide my deform rig, And if I grab onto my root bone down here, I can move it. Cool. That's like my God node. And then I have my spine node here. Cool. This is the fun part of rigging, when you get to just sort of play with the controls and finally see your character move. Alright, so that's it for this video. Just a quick overview of how I'd add that control structure. In the next one, I'll add the IK and the FK to the legs. Big thank you to my patrons for supporting me in this video. It's because of them that I can keep making these videos. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.